Hello there. Today I'd like to show you an Australian Shiraz from the McLaren Vale. So this is Savitar Shiraz from Mitolo. It's the 2020 vintage of this. Now Mitolo are a highly reputed producer of mainly red wines, coming from the southern McLaren Vale. McLaren Vale lying to the south of Adelaide, probably about 30 minutes, 45 minutes outside the city centre. So the region sort of sits between the Mount Lofty ranges in the east and the sea to the west, with quite a variety of altitudes, a diverse set of soil types, and with the Adelaide Plains to the south of it. The climate is Mediterranean, and that's cooled by breezes that come off the Gulf of St Vincent, or alternatively gully winds that come down from the Mount Lofty ranges. Mitolo have two distinct wine ranges. They have their Jester range of varietal wines, and then they have a premium range of varietal expressions of different single vineyards. Now the Mitolo family came to the McLaren Vale from Abruzzo in Italy in the 1950s, and quite quickly established a reputation as high quality fruit growers, very dependable fruit growers. But it wasn't until 2000 that they started releasing their own wines. So it was a 1999 vintage of a Shiraz that was their first production, and then they went on to start producing Cabernet Sauvignon as well. Today they make a range of 15 different wines, and they export that to 15 different countries. I think one of the inspirations for this change was a friendship that had grown up between Frank Mitolo and Ben Gleitzer, a highly accomplished South Australian winemaker. Ben and Frank formed a partnership, with Ben making the wines from Mitolo until quite recently, I believe. Now Mitolo's fruit all comes from the southern part of the McLaren Vale, from regions such as Sellick Hills and Aldinga, especially the premium sub-region of Whites Valley. This is in the sort of larger Willunga area, and it's from a vineyard in Whites Valley that the fruit for the Savitar Shiraz comes. The fruit comes off the Flour Mill Road vineyard, from vines owned by, evidently they were friends of Frank Mitolo's parents, and they concentrate on selecting the best plots of fruit from two sections of the vineyard, one the Lopresti home block and the other Lot 11. But even then, they're selecting the best fruit from within these plots. The soil here is a combination of grey sandy clays and black Biscay clay, it's called. And these clays sit over a sedimentary subsoil. So they're actually very good for retaining water from the winter for the vine's growth in the beginning of the season. But then later in the summer, these clays start to dry out and they crack. That encourages the vine to ripen the fruit. The vines here are around 30 years of age, so they're fully mature, and so give naturally quite low yields and a concentration. And actually, that's where the name Savitar comes from. Evidently, Savitar was a dragon, and upon tasting the fruit from this vineyard, Ben and Frank related its power and spiciness to that of the dragon Savitar. The fruit's hand harvested, it's destemmed, and it's crushed into 2-ton open fermenters. So very traditional Shiraz winemaking style here. Throughout fermentation, there are pump overs twice daily. My understanding is that the wine stays on its skins for a little over 2 weeks, 15 days or so. It's then run off into oak, which is predominantly new. So they're using 85% new French oak, 5% of new American oak, and 10% of seasoned oak. And these barrels are hogsheads, and the wine stays in them for 20 months. And it's actually run off at the end of fermentation so that it does its malolactic conversion in the barrel as well, which adds a roundness and a warmth and a softness to the style of the wine. The wines are unfined, so there's no animal or dairy product going into this wine at all, even as a fining agent. That should make it entirely suitable for vegans and vegetarians. And the wine is then just lightly filtered into bottle. So let's see what we make of it, shall we? It's a deep dark wine. It's virtually opaque. If I look carefully, I can just see the stem of the glass looking down through it. It's a black ruby with a relatively sort of red-purple hue at the rim there. Swirling it, the wine has 14.5% alcohol, and it's quite readily forming tears on the side of the glass there. So let's see what we make of the aromas, shall we? The aromas are predominantly of ripe, juicy red fruit. This is rich. It's rich red cherries, rich dark plum, dark red plum. And you're getting hints of mintiness. There's perhaps a little bit of vanilla-y oak note at the top there. And perhaps the first hints of a sort of slightly developed leatheriness, some sort of savoury note, certainly. But as I say, to the fore are these rich red cherry and dark plum aromas. On the palate, the wine is rich, concentrated and warm. There is a nice freshness, but instantly the concentration is of dark cherries, dark ripe plum, juicy mulberry, going through to a dark, sweet black licorice note, such as the concentration there. But the acidity is good and it's keeping it fresh. The alcohol is adding warmth and roundness, and there's a real sort of rounded glycerol edge to the mouthfeel. The tannins are velvety smooth. There's a chocolatey smoothness to them. I think smooth and juicy describes the mid palate beautifully there. There's a richness and a warmth, and to the finish you're just seeing a little bit of vanilla and cedar sort of at the top of the flavours there, sort of emerging from above the rich, almost getting quite ripe fruit. You've gone through from a red sort of mulberry, red cherry note right the way through to a black plum, black cherry, licorice, and then finally to a more savoury sort of black olive note on the finish there. So going right the way through a spectrum of flavours. The wine's intensity is certainly impressive. But at the same time, there's enough acidity that it's not actually heavy. The beautiful ripeness and freshness of the fruit is stopping the alcohol from seeming clumsy. I suppose the function the alcohol is serving is to sort of slightly highlight some exotic spices, cedar and cinnamon sort of notes sort of coming out of the oak on the finish there. So it's a wine with intensity and complexity. It's a wine with lovely, approachable primary fruit, but with a wide spectrum of those flavours. I think the wine's intensity, its good alcohol, and its balance should enable it to age for easily another 5 or 6 years, probably 10. But the wine is very attractive now. It has that very intense dark cherry, dark, rich, ripe, juicy plum notes that would be a very good partner for rich foods. Now, looking at this, the Wine Searcher aggregated critics score for this wine is 91 out of 100. I feel that might have been just a little short-changed by that. I think it would be fair to give this a score of 91 or 92. I think it's an extremely good example of a McLaren Vale Shiraz. Very attractive, it's very approachable, it's very easy to enjoy. So, thank you very much for watching. I do hope you found the video of interest. If you've enjoyed it, do please press the like button. Do please consider sharing the video with your friends if you think they would be interested in watching it. If you have any comments you want to leave, please pop those in the comments box below. I'll leave a link to our page for this vintage of this wine on the Wine Searcher website, so you can research it further. You can see those scores that comprise the score that I've talked about. You can see pricing. You can find there any more details we have about this wine. So once again, thank you so much for joining us. It's really appreciated. And I do hope you'll be able to make some time and come and join us for another tasting in the very near future. Thanks again. Bye for now.